what's the destiny of Israel? Why are we here? I mean, certainly we're here because we want a secure place for Jews. But is that all it's about? I think not. How do people of faith and morals act towards real-world problems? The friction between ideals and reality. You see a camp of nationalism and collective thought where, my country is important, I'm patriotic, less important are the individual rights. And then the other camp is very liberal, very focused on the individual. Israel is gonna be the proof that you can merge both the startup nation, where people are very capitalist, very focused on building companies, on fulfilling themselves. But those same people are right now, as we speak, down in Gaza and up in the north, willing to sacrifice their lives for a greater good.
Naftali Bennett, you're the former Prime Minister of Israel. We are here approaching the 76th anniversary of the modern rebirth of the state of Israel. I appreciate you sitting down with the Rosenberg Report here on TBN. I want to ask you about your views on a range of issues, from Israel's past to its present troubles and where you think the future, where we're going. But thank you, first of all. Let me just
Great to have
your time
you. Yeah.
And you inviting us to your home as well. Appreciate it. All right, so let's start with Israel's past. You are the only modern Israeli prime minister to be religious. You wear a kippah. I'm not saying others don't have any spiritual background, but in terms of being, openly Orthodox, and I love that. And I think evangelical Christians would be intrigued by starting, how do you see the rebirth of Israel in 1948? I've talked to former Prime Minister Ehud Olmert. I asked him, is the rebirth of Israel a fulfillment or partial fulfillment of Bible prophecy? And he was adamant. The answer was no. Okay. My conversations with Prime Minister Netanyahu, though he's not religious, is that of course it is. In fact, he gave a speech at Auschwitz a number of years ago in which he talked about Ezekiel 37, the rebirth of Israel. And sort of the valley of the dry bones coming back together. How do you see what happened on May 14th, 1948, all of the things that led up to and since?
Well, I absolutely see a connection between our ancient past, our biblical past, and our present and future. We're an eternal chain, the Jewish people and the land of the Jewish people. So I see a continuity between Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, Joshua, King David, and then during first, second temple, later the diaspora. For 2,000 years, we were praying for our home 3 times a day. We prayed, all the Jews prayed to come back to Jerusalem. And then indeed the return of Jews from all across the world. That's precisely what's in the Bible. It says it quite literally in quite a few places. And so I think that if the Bible were still open, well, certainly the state of Israel would write new chapters.
Okay. Well, all right. So I agree with you, and as do the vast majority of evangelical Christians worldwide. But as I mentioned, just one example, Ehud Olmert absolutely doesn't see it that way. So it's interesting, right? Because it wasn't religious Jews thinking, let's help, be used by God to rebuild the nation of Israel. It was really people who didn't believe in God, atheists, agnostics, socialists, progressive, laborites, who started the country. Isn't that an irony in your mind?
It's an irony, but it also makes sense because the Jews in the diaspora, they sort of calcified. They became so orthodox in their beliefs and in the little items of the Jewish code, while losing the big picture. And I think only a secular intervention of secular Jews who could bring the audacity, the courage to break this belief that we have to be passive, and they were active. So I'm talking about Herzl, I'm talking about Ben Gurion, the founders of modern day Israel. And I think the formula for current day Israel is a mix.
Okay.
I don't think we should revert to the calcified Judaism of in Europe, etc.
There was a sense that only the Messiah could come and give rebirth to the a modern state of Israel. So therefore, until he comes, we should wait. Is that? I mean,
that's
was part of that. What you're talking about?
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Where the secular was like, we're not doing it for biblical reasons. We don't even believe in the Bible, but we just need to get back.
We need
and
to act.
Safe.
Modern Zionism started on the background of massive anti-Semitism in Europe, Eastern and Western Europe, the Dreyfus Affair and other elements where people. There were about 150 years where Jews chose to assimilate. They thought that if we just become more like everyone else, then no one will hate us. Clearly, that didn't pan out well. Even prior to the Holocaust, prior to the Shoah, I'm talking about 50 years, 70 years prior to the Shoah. So they decided we have to take our destiny in our hands. But some of them thought that it doesn't necessarily have to be in Palestina,
right.
in the land of Israel.
They talked about
Uganda, etc. But very interestingly, when Herzl came to the Jewish Congress with the Uganda plan, he saw a tidal wave of opposition. That was the first time he was massively opposed by his fellow Jews. They said, we love you, but no, we have
no
one
one's praying next year in Uganda.
That's exactly right. And so I think that modern day Israel is sort of the beauty of both modernity that gets intertwined with our biblical roots and our destiny. I have a thesis that I'd like to share with
Please.
you about what's the destiny of Israel. Why are we here? I mean, certainly we're here because we want a secure place for Jews, but is that all it's about? I think not. I think in some interesting way, we have a goal, the Light Upon Nation goal, but I'll be more specific. How do people of faith and morals act towards real world problems, the friction between ideals and reality? So I'll give you 3 examples.
Okay.
You take all these Jews, you put them in the land of Israel, but then you say there's no water. Go solve it. And lo and behold, Israel is the highest producer of water in the world per capita. More than 50% of our water is desalinated and recycled water. I'll give you a second example. So you take the Jews, you put around them the worst enemies you could ever imagine: Hezbollah, ISIS, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Iran. And there, let's do this trial, this experiment on these Jews and see how do they deal with retaining a remarkable democracy while fighting horrible enemies at the same time. Because it's very easy when you're fighting enemies to sort of go down a slope of
more authoritarian.
And if we look across the world at democracies, you see basically 2 camps. You see a camp of nationalism and collective thought where, my country is important, I'm patriotic. Less important are the individual rights. And then the other camp is very liberal, very focused on the individual. But the truth is we need both. We need both. And Israel is going to be the proof that you can merge both the startup nation, where people are very capitalist, very focused on building companies, on fulfilling themselves, but those same people are right now, as we speak, down in Gaza and up in the north, willing to sacrifice their lives for a greater good. How can the same person be both individualistic and collective and national? How do you retain a Jewish state that's also democratic? So I feel sometimes that Israel is the great experiment of the world, and we keep on being shoved all these huge challenges, but we're up to it.
How do you explain the dramatic and very consistent shift rightward. I should do it this way. And of course, you actually started a party called Yamina, to rightward. And so what happened?
Well, actually, Joel, there's two dimensions of left, right in Israel. One is the national dimension. And you're absolutely right that indeed people don't think anymore that it makes sense to concede land to the Arabs, because what we get is October 7th, what we get is intifadas, what we get is wars.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't work. But the other dimension is the socio-economic dimension.
Mm-hmm.
And you're also correct that the initial Israeli leadership was very socialist, and now we're a free market country. That's because socialism doesn't work, and we're very pragmatic here. It's a well-known saying that if you're not socialist as a child, then you have no heart. If you're not capitalist as an adult, you have no brains. And so, socialism is all beautiful and equality. It just doesn't work. Barring that, it's a beautiful ideology. So, I myself am an example. I founded a high-tech company, ran another high-tech company, sold them, very startup nation-oriented. But at the same time, I believe that we have to help the weaker people in our society and mainly give a fair opportunity to every child. That I would say is my main goal. I was education minister. I want to give a fair shot to every child, regardless whether it's a Bedouin child, ultra-Orthodox one, or someone living in Tel Aviv.
Yeah, you really, in many ways, are the embodiment of the sort of new Israel, whether you'd become prime minister or not, but certainly the fact that you did, because it wasn't your set of, it wasn't that you had a huge number of seats in the Knesset at that time. Yair Lapid did, but he was center-left and couldn't convince the rest of the country that would be the way the country was ready to go. And you represent both the religious side, the younger side, the very entrepreneurial startup nation side. It's a very interesting combination that you guys put together, and as well as with Benny Gantz. One more thing on the past, because we're sitting here on Yom HaShoah, right? The Holocaust Remembrance Day. How did the Holocaust and its horrors shape early Israeli thinking and politics and society? And what role does the memories of the Holocaust play as Israel goes into its next phase, its next season of modern history?
It's a very good question.
There's been a change, right?
The state of Israel was founded not because of the Holocaust. Herzl predated it. The state of Israel exists because this is our home. That's it. It's the home of the Jews. So the Jews have a state in their homeland. The Arabs have 22 states. Jews have one. Christians have countless. However, the Holocaust is a central element in the ethos of Israelis. And if I may, as Prime Minister of Israel, I think about the Holocaust a lot. And what do I think? I realize that the unthinkable can happen. Now, this is a unique element, unfortunately, in Israel, because America won't be destroyed by anyone. Belgium will not be destroyed by anyone. No one's targeting France or the UK. No one is set out to annihilate Italy. But there is a country out there, one country in the world, that other countries in the nations, the family of nations, explicitly say they want to annihilate us. Iran explicitly says they want to annihilate us. Syria, Hezbollah, you name it. And the Holocaust reminds me that we can't lay back supine and expect everything to just be okay. No. If we lay down our arms, if we're not assertive enough and focused enough and alert enough, horrible things can happen, because they did. So the unthinkable can happen. And when you are aware of that as Prime Minister of Israel, it's a whole additional layer of immense responsibility. When I replaced Netanyahu, we had a 20-minute meeting in the Prime Minister's office. and then he left, and I stayed there alone. I walked and sat down at on the prime minister's chair.
By the way, that was a big moment because Prime Minister Netanyahu had been the longest-serving prime minister, and you interrupted that flow. So that was a very interesting
that's
change
correct.
here in Israel.
So I parted with Netanyahu and walked. I was alone in the room, sat down, and I realized the huge, profound responsibility the prime minister of the only Jewish state has. And it's a link in a eternal chain, but we have a huge responsibility and we cannot take anything for granted.
One of the things that Prime Minister Netanyahu then and now has made a centerpiece of his strategy for building strategic partnerships and alliances was to reach out and build a very deep and I think very solid alliance with evangelical Christians. Now, I've talked to Gantz about this and Lapid. I don't think you and I have had a chance to talk about it, but it's not that evangelicals are supportive of Netanyahu alone. It's not like he has a monopoly on this. He's been the prime minister. He has reached out consistently and built. But I do think it's important that for now and in the future that other prime ministers think maybe as carefully and as broadly as he has, because evangelicals are not a big element inside the country, right? But you've got 600 million worldwide, and I don't think there's a stronger friend, a more reliable friend in terms of people as opposed to world leaders or even states. Would you just talk a little bit for a few moments about the role that evangelicals played, even with Herzl, but going forward, and how you see the importance of that relationship?
Modern day Israel was facilitated in many ways. One of the vectors, one of the forces was the belief in the United Kingdom, in Great Britain, in America, of Christians that the Jews should come back to their homeland by people that believed in the Bible, people of faith. I'm a man of faith. I deeply appreciate and respect the huge love that we are getting, that the state of Israel is getting from hundreds of millions of evangelicals, and I see them as a pillar of support for the Jewish state. I also know that they understand that we are one. We're fighting the same war against radical Islam that wants to wipe out all the infidels, if you will, from the face of earth and place Sharia law everywhere. By the way, in Europe, in America. I'm not guessing this. This is what they're explicitly saying. And also, I think this amazing miracle of modern day state of Israel, where you see schools and homes and buses and airplanes and high tech, this is truly the realization of the dry bones prophecy, right? It's the vision. It's exactly that. The Jewish people were not dead, but almost dead in the diaspora. We were no longer one unified nation, but many small communities connected with a belief, weak, helpless, and now we're here fulfilling this destiny of the Jewish people. And I'm darn proud to be Israeli and Jewish, and certainly to have had the privilege of leading the state of Israel.
Well, I appreciate it. And as an Israeli and an American, as Jewish on my father's side, not on my mom's side, and as an evangelical follower of Jesus, I'm very proud of this country as well. I do believe it's a fulfillment of prophecy, and I think I want to do anything I can, whether it's this show, our website, All Israel News, or whatever else, delegations, to keep building those ties.
You know, then I have a specific idea.
Okay.
I would suggest that your viewers, open up the calendar, set a time, and come and visit Israel. Israel's fine. Don't worry. Don't worry about anything. Just come from wherever you are across the United States or anywhere in the world. Come and visit the Holy Land. It is beautiful. It has beautiful people, beautiful places. Come see the Sea of Galilee, the Dead Sea, Nazareth, Jerusalem, Bethlehem, you name it. It's just beautiful. And I also want to say something else. You know, when I invite your viewers,
Our answer is yes, by the way.
So come. But I'm sure they say, you know, I don't know, there could be rockets, there could be this. Let me tell you something. You know, a few weeks ago, we had that attack of 300 missiles from Iran on Israel.
I saw it from my apartment in Jerusalem.
But here's the funny thing.
But,
This huge attack, had it been, say, on America, this would be an issue for the next half year, 10 years, 20 years. Here, the next morning, so are we going out to coffee?
Right.
Everyone was okay.
That was totally true.
You know, they shot it. We took
shot it
them
down
out
and then,
with our
move on.
amazing technology, the Iron Dome, the David Sling, the Arrow, which we all developed. By the way, in many cases in collaboration with our best friend, the United States of America.
Amen.